I would
And he's very good friends with Bono.
Yeah, no.
He still doesn't call him.
But owning something doesn't make you that.
Tailor's Palette. Experience the magic of bespoke craftsmanship tailored just for you. Measure now and enjoy your perfect fit in just 2 hours.
Hi Brandon, you did the cinematography of Flight of the Phoenix, which was a remake of the old film, the original one. Again, you did for HBO the Westworld. So while doing these remakes, do you visit the original productions to see how the cinematography was done?
For both of those, I had seen Flight of the Phoenix, the original one, years ago, like long time before I did the remake. I had seen Westworld, the feature film, as well. I revisited both of them just to remind me, but I'll be honest with you, they don't guide me in anything I'm doing for the next version, because to me, they're separate films, they're separate TV shows. If somebody wants to compare the original with the remake, they can do that, but I don't. And I don't, a lot of times too, I don't want to be guided by it. I want the freedom, because also too, it's a different director, and for me to bring stuff, what I would call baggage, is not helpful.
What parameters you select for the selection of the script, and how you decide whether the script is meritorious or not? Can you just explore all the parameters regarding script?
Well, my take on script reading is quite different. The film that we just did, I actually went and got a book and had the script story written for it. And I told the event happened 23 years ago, and I spoke about it to the writer. And then in the end, it was about 40 minutes too long. And I had to come up with a way on how to chop off the beginning and the end, and you approach it like that. So that was something that I originated. And the other scripts, they're quite different. I've usually done visual films. And unfortunately, I used to always think that visual films, I would love to get a script that read fantastic on paper so that you can just go and make it. It was a folly. It didn't work. Because whenever I've done visual films, I realized the reason they get made is people will look at that and go, this is crap. It's really bad. But he's a visual guy, right? Give it to him. And somehow those movies got made. Now when I look at it, some scripts that are phenomenal. And I go, this script I would like to make. People look at it, they can read exactly what it is. They say, this is great. No, we don't want to make it. So I don't know how movies get made. They get made because people don't understand them. They think you have a different take on it. So I read scripts with not that in mind. Is it a story I want to tell? And I'm the best person for it. And I approach each one of those with that kind of parameter.
Story is the base of the script, and script is only written regarding the story.
Well, the best way to look at it, I look at the script as a great blueprint. You can look at a blueprint and just know that is the building going to be great? I don't know. So you have to look at it as a guide. But that's not, if you're making a studio film, that's not the best answer. Because they want to know how commercial is it, what will it look like. But then you have to make a lot of eye candy to sell people on what it will look like and where it will go. You put together these visual packages, which now with today's AI, you don't read anybody. So for me, I just say that it depends on that. But the story in the end is very important to most filmmakers. I'd say the visual films that I do, probably not. I end up putting the cart ahead of the donkey and just say, this is the look I have in mind, and then we figure out something, sometimes. But for something like Immortals, at least for Brendan, I told him that everybody was making comic strip books. And I just said I wanted to make a painting book. I wanted to make it look like if Caravaggio lit a set. And I only took, and I usually don't take comic strips and I don't take pictures of other films to the DP or to anybody. So for that one, I just showed him paintings of Caravaggio and a couple of people. I said, this got to be the finger of God kind of lighting like this. And we go with that in the story. So that's to Brendan. I had to pass it on to show him we need to study paintings to go into that. So the script was kind of half there. The writers were very flexible and wonderful, and as we went along, which is the last thing you want to do in a visual film, because you spend so much money while shooting, you don't really want to think on your feet. So, but sometimes you just don't know. The cart and the donkey go a long way until one has to take off. So when we were doing the production of that film, I had the writers over. And as we were looking at scenes, and they could tell me, you can afford this, you can't afford this, you can afford this, you can't. And I take a very practical approach. I always take the Punjabi expression, you have to see, like, otherwise, spread your feet once you know how big your blanket is. Otherwise, either you're going to get a head cold or your feet are going to come out. So I always work with a parameter like that. I just say, like, tell me how much you have. And if I can't afford this, I'm very flexible. And sometimes you should be and sometimes not.
One other thing just to add to that, don't forget, a great script doesn't mean a great film. And you can also make very good film with a very average script. So,
And vice versa.
yes. So for the audience, like the script is important, I think, to the filmmakers, but that's not what the audience are watching. So I think personally that you have to put yourself in the position of sitting watching the film, be an audience member while you're making the film, not afterwards.
I would like to know how you guys develop a visual language for a particular film, because you are a very visual director, and how it's distinct from your previous film. Like, all your films look different, and what is the process behind it?
Thank you for saying that. Okay. Great question.
Can I add something onto it? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Also, on a film like Fall, you travel throughout the world and you've shot in like many like different top of
28 countries.
Yeah, 28 countries, and still it looks very cohesive. So, what went behind that?
Okay. For every film, it's usually different. For The Fall, that was kind of a project that I had that I just said, how do I make a language that I want to originate, which is not really the classic language of cinema, which is, you know, how you do the coverage, how you film, and all that particular one. I wanted to come up with a different style. The closest person to it probably is the Armenian director Parajanov, who does the opposite of what they teach you in film school. When you go in film school, they tell you, put the camera here, make sure the poles are going away, you understand the depth, you understand this. And this guy films like how the Rajasthanis probably do their paintings in miniatures, or this thing, which you take a place that has depth and you destroy it by doing the absolute opposite, by using telephoto lenses, by doing that. And I just thought like, oh, I actually am much more closer to that. And I wanted that language to be the language of the fantasy, but the hospital language to be really boring. So it is just supposed to be somebody's bored in a hospital, they hear a story and it blows their mind. So I just thought how this person imagines, which is always true, that no matter how great a film, especially for a music video or anything, how much ever you do, is nowhere near as good as what a person can imagine. Not only that, especially for a music video, next time they hear the song, they can change the images, but you're forcing a particular image in their mind to say, remember this. And it's quite handicapping, but it is the beast today. With the songs, you have to have a particular image, and that's how it goes. So with The Fall, that was the brief, that in the hospital, it stays banal. When we go around the world, it is going to be a particular style, and no genre has been developed yet. The cowboy films haven't come out, nothing has been. So how does the person imagine that? That's why I made the film set in 1915 or 1819, just so that the person they're talking to has not seen cinema. How do they imagine it? Probably a lot different than if you've seen cowboy films and you've seen all the other films. So that was the brief I went with there. In the other ones, it's quite different. So with somebody like Brendan, I was saying, you know, I chose Caravaggio, and I just said, go in this particular style. When we did kind of Mirror, Mirror, I liked the trees. I think I was showing him Tarkovsky, because he has a particular great love scene in silver birch trees. I forget what they're called in Punjab people. They're safede. But they really look beautiful in black and white and not very good in color. And I just wanted to desaturate and make the snow and everything look monochromatic to pull the camera people out. So I just only very roughly talked to Brendan and showed him one or two films. And we have the same collaboration like I do with him. He's the production designer. I have a different one for the rest of the world and a different one for America.
How do you deal with creative differences on set? What led you to your field, and what is your motto while working? And I also want to ask, what is your motto while working?
You know what? What is my motto? I don't think there is one. I think there's an expression that says any philosophy that can be put in a nutshell belongs there. So no, there is no one motto. You just have to do a billion other things that you go by the rules on, and they're a bit too many, and you need to be flexible. So the first question was that.
By the way,
the difference between us?
but I'll give you one motto I have is, and I do this on every job, I can never say no. No, that's seriously. Like, I don't think that's a position for any crew member to say no. You have to find a solution. Problems come up on every job. It doesn't matter how good the job is, how much money you have. You cannot say no. And I think if every crew member, and that includes production, just made it say to themselves, I can't say no.
I say no.
He can, yeah, the director can. But
Yeah, it is true, because when you go out there, everybody looks at you like, do you know the movie? And unfortunately, people can tell when you are in control. And if you go out there and you kind of like half in control and you open that can of worm and just say, okay, let's all have a discussion every particular time, it might take you about 20 years to make a 5-minute film. In the end, it's got to be a bit of a telephoto, I mean, not telephoto, tunnel vision. I prefer a one person's vision on the film. But at the same time, this is not a medium like writing, where you can write whatever you want. It requires the collaboration of hundreds of people to get that out there. You have to get them to trust you. You have to get them to believe in you, that when you just say, lie down in front of the truck, they lie down in front of the truck. But if all the time you're crying wolf, it never happens. That's why probably I'm always told my shoots are the easiest and funniest shoots to be around, because there is no pressure for anything. Because when I say pressure is on, everybody wakes up. But a few times when I went to other people's shoot, the tension was here. And I'm just thinking, what happens if something goes wrong? How do you tell them this is important? You can't. You just cried wolf all your life. So for me, creative differences need to be solved before, as much as possible. Whatever you do, when you end up on a set, believe me, new problems will arise. And everybody will look to you. If you, I don't know how many directors there are in here, they'll look to you to say that, can you solve this? And if you can't, be honest about it. And the film that we just did right now, I couldn't afford to have it the other way. It just had to be in medium shots. So we went with that. So creative differences, if you've got with producers, you got a problem. So just solve that long before you get up there. If you get up there and you start shooting and your producer sees the film differently, you need to be in a particular place in the totem pole to say the producer doesn't matter. You are the financier, which is unfortunately a thing that I find very common in India. But a financier is exactly confused with a producer. The person who writes the check in the West is very different. He might not be the producer at all. The producer is the originator of the material, who knows more about it on anything. But in my experience out here, the person who writes the check just suddenly ends up being the producer. Where the first time they ask you, you come up with a shot in your eye on a scene, what's the first thing you do when you go to light a scene? Is that right?
फर्स्ट लाइट मतलब क्या करते क्या सबसे पहले जो आपका स्क्रिप्ट लगे उसके बाद
First, you have probably start with the chai. Think about it.
कंपोजिशन वगैरह सर कंपोजिशन
the first thing I would do, well, generally this would be on most films. You block the scene first with the actors, so you know what's happening. I've seen people try it the other way. I don't know what they're doing. And also too, I think it's incredibly disrespectful to tell an actor, okay, stand there, say these 2 lines, walk there, do this, pick this up, walk out. What involvement have they had? They're monkeys at that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so block the scene, have a discussion with the director about what shots you think you need. Place the camera or the cameras in those positions, and then start lighting. That's generally. Now, a lot of times when I write, you're asking a question and you're forgetting, I think, a very important part. If we're shooting inside a house, when we arrive in the morning, I already would have had the electricians have the lights outside the windows, because we know we need them. They're not in the truck. They're outside. They may not be in the exact positions, but they're close. I like coming onto a set, even for the blocking. When I'm blocking with Tarsem, I will already, or for anybody, I will have lights already in position. Because funnily enough, if you put lights up first for the blocking, actors tend to go towards where the light is. And the director also can see what it might look like. You get a free chance to see how it's working. I think we work very fast.
That's a great answer to that question. But to answer actually even one to take the lead from him, is that usually when I go on a set, that's not when we light the set. So what I did in this particular one or anything, I go there before and I tell the actors, there is no camera. Yes, there is no lighting.
Yes, sir.
Work the scene out. And then we work with them and see where they go. And then I try to cheat a bit, because I've done enough cinematography to know that that's not possible to light, and to help the cameraman. Then sometimes he'll come to me and go like, that's impossible. Then we try to maneuver them a little bit if possible, if it doesn't hurt the story. You get them in a place, and this is a handicap that you'll have all the time, which is the problem with multiple cameras. If you're going to shoot telephoto and tell somebody out there, be natural, yahan se telephoto shot, everybody you can make, they will be brilliant actors because they'll just be themselves. But if you're going to enter that space and ask them to create certain things, it becomes very difficult. You need actors for that. So for me, when we go out there, I just tell them there isn't one thing. So with the actors, when we did this, I took them to the houses. And I said, this is where that person lives. That's where this person lives. Stand out here. If you had to look at that person, what would you do? We did all this on way before we did any lighting. So Brendan came and I took him for a tour of those places. And I said, this person lives here, this person lives here, this is that particular one. Then Brendan's making notes that, okay, I can probably hide lights here, I can hide. And he's not telling me. I don't want to light for him, I never want to tell him how to light. But I usually am two people's friendly person. I'm friendly to cameraman, I'm friendly to wardrobe. And so that's why my stuff looks visual. And critics hate it because story comes third for me.
When you buy a camera and if you can shoot photographs and videos, then you start calling yourself a DOP. So how's there in your country? When do you call yourself a cinematographer and when do you call yourself as a DOP?
When you have a telephone.
Well, no, it's not. It's a good question. One of the things I always say to people, I own 4 or 5 guitars. I play it for me. I'm not a guitarist. I would.
And he's very good friends with Bono.
Yeah, no.
He still doesn't call himself.
But owning something doesn't make you that. Now, when you call yourself a cinematographer, I'm not sure when that happens, because and maybe it's other people. It's when other people call you a cinematographer. That, like, if you want to work and earn money and earn a living, you can call yourself what you want. But when other people, like when they start hiring you, that's kind of probably when you become it. I don't know, but like again on the same thing, that similar vein to what Tarsem was saying, if you want to be a cinematographer, you need to shoot stuff. That's what you need to do. You need to stop copying stuff. I think like emulating or copying stuff might be good to learn when you're a student. And I would encourage everybody to learn the rules of photography for one reason only, that you can forget about them. Like, people ask me, when you're shooting, how do you work out? I never think about technical things. When I'm on the set with the director, I couldn't care less now. The only technical thing, but even I try to not take care of that. Like, I fought to get a DIT. Does everybody know what a DIT is? A digital imaging technician? Which a lot of producers confuse with data managers, and they're not the same thing. But I let them manage the exposure. I know you're going to find this strange. That's when we're shooting digitally. If we're shooting digitally, I just capture the image in front of the camera. I tell them the stop I want to shoot at. If it needs NDs, put them in. They don't need my permission. I empower the crew. I tell the DIT and the first AC, make sure the exposure is correct. If you need to ask me something, do. Never clip the highlights, and get the most exposure you can, and then I do the print or the grade later. But that's kind of
and also, I think your question raises a bigger issue to me, which is that people in India or anywhere always think that the grass is greener on the other side. Like, are they like really intelligent? They won't call themselves DPs there. Just like there's 85% fools here, there's 95% fools there. There's idiots everywhere in the world and about 5% brilliant people who will make the changes. So don't think that just because here people are silly in doing that, they don't do it there. Ullu wahan bhi hain. So you just have to get away from them and just know that there is this stuff everywhere. It's not, so what you do here, a lot of people there do the same crap.
I said this because in some foreign films I read photographer rather than cinematographer in credits. That's what I.
Sorry, what?
Oh, photographer. You're talking about director?
In some older films.
Yeah, look, are you talking about the titles, director of photography, cinematographer?
Yes.
This is all rubbish. Call yourself what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Just as long as you get called by other people the same thing, it's okay. If you're calling yourself cinematographer and they call you Ullu, you're Ullu. So it's just like...
No, but it's about the work you do. Like, I've seen people get upset because they wanted the title cinematographer rather than director of photography or vice versa. Like, again, the word ego starts to come to my mind.
The only word I'm scared of is when they call you artist. That means they don't want to pay you much. And I go like, no, leave art outside, just write me a check.
Trying to let go of that very slick Hollywood aesthetic It's almost like struggle, and I'm trying to find like how to make this film here in India and make it more like, which feel more like being home. So I know that you made this film.
Okay. All I can tell you is, they say, "Dhobi ka kutta na ghar ka na ghat ka." So most of the people, when they go to one other place or something like that, you just think like I remember all our life, when we used to go to England, they used to ask us, "Where are you from?" We'd say, "From India." When you were in India, "Where are you from?" "I'm from England." It's just like somehow everybody wants to belong somewhere. If you went out there, your vibrancy might have been too much for them. That's what I was always accused of. And I never even saw it vibrant. Have you ever been to an Indian wedding? There is just like this, dilate to until it becomes illegal. You just take it until the graph just levels out on top. So for me, you just have to think, if that's what you like, it's okay. At the other end, if the people who are paying the bill are not going to pay for it, make that decision. Is it something you can make on your own? Make it. If you think that basically, I just have a rule that if it's something that you're making personal, it will be something that you can afford to do small. If you're going big, like I know when people, if you make 3, 4 million, 5 million, at least not point, we talk about numbers differently, but you can make the personal film. But if you're making 70, 80 million, you should allow other people to put a little milk in your coffee.